Is there any GameLeap videos that cover information gathering? That seems to be a weak point in my game, figuring out what's going on in any game instead of running around blindly. Well, don't worry, this is the perfect video for you, so we're gonna break it down, but for more in-depth advanced tips, you gotta go to the GameLeap website where we have tons of daily videos added that are VOD reviews, pro breakdowns, and so much more. Do yourself a favor and go check it out right now, down below. Now, before you can even gather information in Halo so that you learn where enemies are rotating, take proper engagements, and never get caught out, you have to have some amount of pre-existing info to start off with. And the easiest way to describe this is map knowledge. Knowing where the weapons spawn, knowing where items are, knowing where grenades are, and having an appropriate amount of knowledge about where everything is on any given map. Now, there's not that many maps, so it shouldn't take forever to learn. But if you do want to learn, a really great tool for you to use is just the AI scan. Remember, you can AI scan in a game and it will show you the spawns for every single weapons and items through the wall. So it's really easy for you to quickly learn exactly where you want to go, what you want to do. And when you start a game off, you could say, hey, I'm going to go grab this weapon. Then I'm going to go try to contest this item. And it's a game plan that you can make right off the bat. Now, the reason that map knowledge is so important when trying to gather information is because it can help you to deduce certain things that are happening on the battlefield. For instance, if the overshield is taken, you know, hey, if our team doesn't have it, then the enemy team has to have it. And if an enemy is leaving from that direction, they probably have the damn overshield. If you just turn the corner around an enemy and the enemy is there, but they're near a mangler spawn, then there's a possibility that they have the mangler. So these are all little bits of information that you would never be able to deduce if you don't have the map knowledge required. And understanding where things are on the map can allow you to better prepare for potentials, and it can really change how you could fight engagements. For example, not pushing really aggressively up against a mangler, or not peeking open space up against a sniper rifle, and the list can go on and on. But the next thing that you need to know about gathering information is all about your allies' locations. Look at where your allies are and pay attention to where they are looking, where they are fighting, and where they are existing. You can not only learn things from them just telling you or pinging and saying, hey, there's an enemy here, or they're just, telling you that there's an enemy in a specific location, but you can also infer a lot of things from their presence. If they're standing in the open and not dying, not under fire, then you can assume that there's no enemies within their line of sight. This allows you to look at the battlefield, look at where your allies are, look at where they're not under fire, and maybe your allies are really spread apart, but none of them are in fights, then you can assume that all the other areas on the map probably host enemies, and that's a way for you to gather information about where enemies likely are and where enemies are 100% not. So this is a really great way to kind of utilize your teammates just to get information without them even saying a word. And in general, it's really great for you to try to communicate, but if you don't want to talk in the mic or you can't, pinging is also just incredibly useful. Just shooting at an enemy in a location, pinging it once and moving on is just really great targeted information for your team. And that's definitely a way that your team can share information, like an information pool, with each other. Now, the next thing that you need to do if you want to gather consistent information is peek lanes. This is why I always say control that high ground, because you get a huge vantage point on the battlefield and you can see where enemies are going. A great example of this is, let's say you're playing like any map, but let's take Aquarius, for example. Your teammate is playing left side high ground and you're playing right side high ground, and you see an enemy run to the left and they're gonna go up the stairs and challenge your team. But because you know they're there, you could say, hey, that person is coming. You could ping them, or you could even go over there and help your ally. Your ally will be ready for the engage. You will be joining them because you gathered information, but you only knew that that enemy was coming there because you had clear lines of sight to multiple entrance points to the high ground. And having these high ground positions that allow you to see the battlefield, know where enemies are rotating, and know when there's an opportunity for y'all to get a pick off or cut off an enemy, that is really, really strong. And oftentimes when you play a game and you feel like no matter what you do, you get shot from every direction, you don't know where enemies are coming from, you can never get a fair fight, it often has to do with the fact that one, you're not putting out enough pressure, and two, you are not controlling enough open space and gathering enough information about where enemies are. Because if you have that information, you know where enemies are going, and you see an enemy just like constantly off-angling or constantly flanking solo, it's super easy to cut that person off and get a free kill. But you got to get the information about it, and if you're just looking at what's right in front of you and just running around the map, you're never ever going to be able to do that. Now, the question that was asked specifically talks about running around blindly, or this feeling of not knowing what the hell is going on, and I understand that feeling, but here's the general tips I have to just completely, stop losing your bearings and have a much better sense of what's going on the battlefield. First off, and this is most important, slow the hell down. I see this way too often in VOD reviews where people spawn in, instantly take the fuck off, and they just run and run and run, and they keep running until they see someone, and then they fight, or they keep running until they get shot, and then they die. This is super chaotic and super unnecessary. Slow down. Think about where you're going. Look at areas one at a time. Have your gun out ready to fight. Go and instantly when you spawn, take a surveil of your surroundings first, then clear the next room, go find an area where you can actually look at a more open area of the battlefield while still having some sort of cover. So what this allows you to do is gather information, but because you have cover near you, if there are tons of enemies there, you have a way to dip out without dying. And it's way better to do this, especially when you don't have any information from your team or very little information at all, to spawn and instantly run somewhere and run to the next room and just run around like a psychopath. You're gonna get caught out and killed. All an enemy has to do is just mind their own business, and they hear you running, they turn around, you run into their room, they get first shot on you, and then they kill you for free. And they didn't have to do anything to get that kill. They didn't deserve that kill. They didn't work for that kill. They just got it for freaking free. And then you might be asking, okay, what are the situations where you should spawn and instantly fight? That is when your team is actively in a full team fight and you need to get in there and help them. This means that you have some sort of information, right? Because your teammates are fighting. That is the information. But if you spawn in and you have no idea where enemies are, you have no idea any information about the battlefield, no one's in a fight actively, or there's no big fight that you can join in on, then you need to slow down. Take things slow. Gather some information first. Set up a proper engagement rather than just running in there and, just repeatedly getting fucked from all ends, not in the fun way, okay? The next thing that you need to do is control one side of the map. This is something that kind of goes hand in hand with going too quickly and just running around. And this happens most often when people play Stronghold, or it's like people are running a train around the map in a circle. Cap C, Cap A, Cap B, Cap C, Cap A, Cap B, just rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. When you do this like crazy, it's really difficult for you to ever keep your team grouped up, for one, and for two, have any information about what's going on. And oftentimes what's gonna happen is during this rotation of yours, an enemy is gonna spawn nearby, or they're just going to be waiting for you, and you're gonna run into a room where an enemy is just there. They're just gonna kill you for free. Oftentimes, it's better to try to control one side of the map. Instead of trying to go around and just constantly cap, you control the one point, and then you control the midpoint, and you just keep that side. You lock down that side, you lock down that area. That will make the enemies spawn on the other side of the map, so it's easy for you to predict where they're coming from. But it also allows more information control of the map on your side, and you can still win that way. You don't need all 3 points in order to win, and oftentimes that overly greedy momentum-based style is actually gonna, turn back and bite you, where maybe you cap one, you try to go cap another, you go for the third one, and then you get wiped, and then the enemy takes them all back. And then, maybe you lose a couple fights in a row, the enemy get all the power weapons, and then you're just completely screwed. Now, all in all, what this is trying to do is combine knowledge that you know about the map, knowledge that you can gain from your allies, what they're doing, what they're seeing, and who they're fighting, control areas on the map that allow you to gather more information of the battlefield, and use prior information, whether you saw an enemy, where they were, what weapons they were near, or where they were routing to predict their future actions and potentially cut them off. If you combine all these things together, you're gonna have much cleaner engages, and you're not gonna get caught out anywhere near as much. But if you have any questions, please let me know down below. And while you're there, the GameLeap website is the best way to truly improve your skill set with VOD review, breakdowns, pro matches, and so much more. We got tons and tons of content on the GameLeap website that you just gotta go check it out right now down below.